All right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Lightforge podcast. This is ADWCTA.
This is Merps. Hello. Hope you guys are doing well. We're almost at Christmas. It always kind of sneaks up on me. I don't know. Like, you get a little bit tired of it because everyone's like, oh, it's like the Christmas creep. But now, on December 6th, we're actually pretty close, less than 20 days. That's really close.
Yeah. It's busy. Everyone's trying to get all the work done before Christmas. I just know that I've been working almost all weekend on stuff. And it's kind of a weird holiday thing, right? I was asking the last time I was streaming, when is the Feast of Winterveil coming? That's got to happen soon, right? Like we're like 10 days into December almost, and they haven't even announced anything yet. So I think that's coming next week. Like, it's probably going to come with some stuff, right? Like, because there's all this thing about, oh, Blizzard's not giving us enough rewards, right? Like, the battle pass is a joke, all this like rioting. And Blizzard had said something like at the first release of the battle pass. They were like, yeah, the rewards, this is not all the rewards you're going to get. You're also going to get a lot of event awards that we just haven't shown you yet. Well, Winterveil happens every year, and it's already kind of late for Winterveil to start.
Yeah. I totally forgot about that. I really just sort of forgot about it. And you're right. This is also a prime time for a lot of companies to be ramping up instead of slowing down and not doing anything, because it is the holiday season. People are expecting to spend money, and you want to offer something such that people can gift it or buy it for themselves. So
Yeah.
it is kind of strange.
It's a good time for people to be playing your game, not quitting your game. And hopefully Blizzard will do something to turn this around before we get to the holidays. Because like we said this last time, for the new battle pass system, the grind really hits around like level 20 through like level, I don't know, 40 or something. And that's going to be where most normal, like not casual, but like most normal, like regular players are at around the Christmas season. So they're going to get a lot of like just bad, word of mouth press on top of this riot thing. If they don't do something, right, to give some bonus EXP or something for the holidays.
Yeah. I thoroughly expect to see something this week. I would be shocked if we didn't see anything this week. And we also have that little mini expansion coming up as well, and I expect this event to maybe give us a preview of that. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. I feel like that's going to be farther off. Like, because they released the expansion like almost a month earlier than they normally do, and
Yeah.
assuming that they're not changing their schedule permanently, the next expansion is still not going to come out to early April. So this mini expansion is all the like constructed content that's bridging the two gaps. So I feel like they're not moving up that schedule by that much. When's BlizzCon again? BlizzCon's January, right? Like early January?
I don't remember when the new like digital BlizzCon is. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Like, I feel like it's going to happen. Like, I feel like they're going to do the reveal or whatever during that, like, BlizzCon thing. And then launch, like, a week after or whatever.
You always have to save something for the BlizzCon event.
Yeah.
Sure. That makes sense.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, holidays are here. Happy Feast of Winterveil. Hopefully that means we'll get updates next week. But they have finally come out with an update. And normally we will be cranky here and be like, Blizzard, you have done so little for the arena. Look, you can't even push the button, and it's been like 3 weeks since the game has been released. Well, they've done even less for all the other game modes, except for duels. So I think Arena's not at the bottom of their list right now. It's just in the same bucket as everything else. And they did finally fix their bug on release, which is the 17 cards in Arena that were not in Arena. And on top of that, those cards are now in the normal pool. They have also fixed the thing that I really, really, really wanted them to fix before anything else. So I'm happy that they did it, which is that Epic offering rates are now back to normal. Epic offering rates for this new expansion were being offered like commons. and they are no longer being offered like commons. You see less clowns, you see less rabbits, but probably the one thing that everyone will be happy about, in addition to clowns and rabbits, is our card good bad for today. Expendable Performers is the huge Demon Hunter epic card that we rated over a 200. It is 7 mana, summon 7/1/1 Illidari with Rush. If they all die this turn, summon 7 more. That card, if you just track the offering rate, now remember there's a lot of old decks still in the still around because they only patched this I think like on Thursday. So there's still a lot of old decks in the data for HS Replay. But you see that it was a pretty steady 5.3 offering rate since the expansion began, and now it has dipped all the way down to 2.7, and it's still dipping. So its offering rate has already been halved, or rather, its seen rate in the game has already been halved. Its real offering rate is even lower than that, because it should be. It should be like a quarter of that, pretty much. So yeah, I'm just throwing it out there as an example because I was looking at it for card good bad.
I think it's a good example, and a lot of epic cards are the source of frustrations because historically epic cards are where Blizzard has put in weird tech cards, but they haven't really been weird tech cards recently. They've just been really powerful cards. So if you look at stuff like Expendable Performers, if you look at stuff like the what's that hammer for paladins? That's like an epic. I forgot the exact name.
Oh, you mean the 6/6 body that happens to have a hammer attached to it, but it's called a hammer.
Have a hammer attached to it.
The hammer of the Naru.
Yeah, hammer of the Naru. That's exactly what they're doing now. Instead of like strange tech cards, right? Or kind of conditional cards that could be very powerful, which was sort of the MO of epic cards before. Now they're just stupidly powerful. So I don't know if it's a kind of like a chase mechanism such that it's rare and you want them more, so you're able to get them. But in constructed, the power level is such that it really doesn't matter almost. It's like a slight annoyance, but for Arena, it's a huge deal. And then when you mix up all of this stuff, offer epics and the same kind of appearance rate as commons, it really messes it up more so for Arena than constructed.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm just glad they fixed it. So basically, all the bugs are now fixed. Yeah, it took them like 2 weeks to do it after release, like a couple days after 2 weeks, which is on the long side. But presumably they released it, had to realize there was a bug, get reports, sort through the reports, confirm the reports, actually do a fix, and then they need to wait for the next hotfix time period or whatever to fix it. All in all, it's a little slow, but it's not like, I guess it's not like unforgivably slow. You know what I mean? Like, it's slow that we bitch about it. It's not so slow that we're like, come on, Blizzard, you should be providing such a better product. It's like, if they did it in 1 week, we would have thought that was fast, right? And they did it in almost two, not even 2.5 weeks. So overall, I thought this was like kind of okay timing on Blizzard's part to identify the problem, confirm it, get it fixed, and I'm just happy it is fixed. Now, that doesn't mean that the meta is in any way, shape, or form where it should be, because what they did not do, and everybody thought they did it when the hotfix came out, but what they did not do is push the button. There have been no micro adjusts. Or to the extent that there have been any micro adjust, it's very hard to see. Demon Hunter's win rate still above 57%. Hunter win rate, 42%. Not much has been changing. Warlock's still a clear number 2 at 54%. And then Warrior and Priest are hovering around 50. Everybody else is low.
Yep. And this is just not super duper fun when things are unbalanced, and also some people find demon hunters being at the very top just really annoying a lot of times for the aggro, but recently it's been more so for the fact that they just have these stupidly powerful cards, Cycle of Hatred, and expendable performers. And I know that the offering rates were off, but people were getting really tired of these omega powerful removals that you could play around, but most of the time it was just not correct to play around it, and then you get burned.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Hulking Overfiend,
I've been
Qualifying
killed by that many
Warlord.
times. Yeah.
Uh, yeah. I mean, you know how busted Chaos Nova is? Chaos Nova is only a 150 on our tier list. All these other cards we're talking about are over 200.
Yeah.
Like, it's just another level. Like, truly another level of busted that Demon Hunter cards are. And, I mean, they haven't nerfed them yet. Maybe some of these cards will be nerfed, especially the Illidari one we're talking about. But let's look at that. Let's look at that closer. Not Illidari. Expendable Performers. Whenever Demon Hunter summon 1/1s, I just think it's Illidari now. But it is Expendable Performers. They are the 1/1 rushes. So this card is 7 mana, and it is capable of dealing 14 damage. If it does not deal that damage, it will leave 1/1 bodies on the board. So you are getting 1/1, like 14 damage split however you want, plus 1/1 bodies for any excess damage. The only rub is that your opponent has to have at least X amount of health on their board based on how many minions you have on your board. Because if you only summon 5 things with Rush, only 5 have to die for you to get the next 5. So I think normally you summon Expendable Performers somewhere between 7 and 6, depending on if you're totally off the board, which is when this card is totally busted, to when you're like sort of on the board, in which case this card is still super, super, super busted. If you remember from our ratings of cards like Command of the Illidari, which is the 5 mana summon 6/1/1 Illidari with Rush, we rated that at 167, some insanely high score. And back in the day when we first came out with a score like that, everyone thought we were crazy. Or I think most people at that point thought we were crazy. And that this card would not be anywhere near that good because it is just 5 mana for essentially 6 damage. And those people were all very wrong very quickly, because it was very clearly a ridiculously busted card once it came out. And it is that busted because you get to determine how to deal the damage, which means it will always perfectly hit. All the hits being perfectly hit is super valuable. Well, now, instead of getting 6 perfect hits, you get 14 for 2 more mana. So 6 was busted for 5 mana. Now you're going to get 8 more hits for 2 mana. Perfect hits. Like, imagine adding 2 mana and being able to deal 8 more damage however you choose onto any configuration of the board. You can never play around Expendable Performers. You will never be safe from Expendable Performers. Your opponent could be on the board, they could be off the board, it doesn't matter. Expendable Performers will win you the board and totally flip it with just 1 card at any point in the game.
Yep.
So, card good, bad, Expendable Performers, busted. Needs a nerf.
Yeah, it's definitely just a little bit too good. I've seen people talk about this. I've done it myself, actually, in a run where if the game is still in question, we are going into 7 mana against the Demon Hunter, or if it's after 7 mana. What I would do, and what some people have done, is if the game is still up in the air, they ask themselves, "Can I survive a really good expendable performance from them?" And if you have no way, as of right now, what you want to do is actually play a little bit less, or play stuff that is more offensively oriented. So, what you probably don't want to do is play something that has like a perfect 7 health, right? Like that Smug Senior, and then into their empty board, and then suddenly you can just lose because that's a perfect expendable performers, right? Your 6 gold Smug Senior with 7 health into their empty board, they expendable performers, and then they at the same time get back enough tempo to kill off your next one. if you so choose to play it, and have suddenly an entire turn advantage on you. So some people are just like, okay, well, I can't play this Monk Senior. I need to play something with like 6 health or 5 health instead, just to make it a little bit more awkward. And I can't deny it forever, but I can deny it for now, because there's a lot of times a huge difference between 7 mana and like 10 mana, right? In which we get to the bombs, or you have that AoE, but you don't have it in your hand yet. So you're like, okay, if I just push this back for like 2 turns or something, I have a much greater shot. And if I just do it now and I don't have the answer on the very next turn, I get blown out. So these are things that people had to think about. And you still want to think about a little bit, but with the offering rates going down, the math becomes a little bit different. But it's so powerful that sometimes you have to play down a little bit, right? We're kind of in that mind control tech mentality here, where you're like, okay, well, I got to hold back a little bit. Like, I don't want to play into MCT. Same thing here. Is like, can I play 6 health instead of 7 health?
Yeah. It's, I mean, I never play around expendable performers.
So you've lost against it a lot.
Yes, I've lost against it a lot. But when you're against a demon hunter, they're super OP anyway. Like, we're talking about expendable performers because it's today's card good bad. But you could take away expendable performers from demon hunter, and they're still going to have a quite similarly busted win rate. It's not like expendable performers is giving them 3% extra win rate or anything. It's giving them like at most 1% extra win rate. Probably not even that, because they have so many other busted cards. And the offering rates on them are all ridiculous right now for whatever reason. Like you're facing an uphill battle to start your matchup. And at that point, if you're also going to play around expendable performers, I feel like you just kind of don't get there anyway, and you just lose. So I treat expendable performers as a win game card, meaning if they have it at any point, they win the game. You can't win. So then you don't think about it, because those games don't matter. Nothing you do would have mattered. It's that good of a card.
I don't. So first of all, that's not always true. And what you want to do is just think about, okay, can I beat expendable performers? If I can delay it for like a turn or two, is that just better for me, right? Because it once again depends on like, okay, well, how can I get to my Twisting Nether? How can I get to my stuff? And if you honestly just can't beat at any point, then sure, like don't even take that disadvantage turn on this turn, because you're not playing towards anything. But if you're playing towards an out, if your situation could get better by delaying it a turn or two, then why not?
Like, you have to play a pretty slow deck that also has like a lot of taunts and probably some heals up to that point. Like, you gotta be, so basically you have to be priest or warrior. Like, those are the only kinds of decks that strategy will work for.
Warlock as well. Lots of times they need to just find, like, because they always have answers. It's about finding the right answer, right? And also delay it for a couple turns gets you to the big clears and also to the bigger taunts. So the difference between you being behind on turn 7 versus you being behind on turn 8 or turn 9 could be the difference between win or losing, right? Because then you have like your options and you're not getting hit like that one turn ahead as well.
Yeah, but you've anti-templed yourself to account for it. Like, and if you're warlock against demon hunter, you're already on the back foot by turn 7. Like, you're never doing fine on turn 7 as warlock against the demon hunter. Or,
I mean, you definitely could be. Like, here's the thing, right? Like, it all goes to your calculation of like, can I afford to do this? And if you can, because lots of times it's like, oh, I could play Smug Senior, or I could play, I don't know, some offensively statted thing, right? That has like a Smug Senior, or I just have like the substitute, right? Like a 6/6. Just play the 6/6 then, something like that.
Right.
Like, it doesn't taunt. You don't get the second body, but like the upside is so much, or it minimizes the downside so well, right? He kills off the 6/6. He just has a 1/1 left, but he doesn't refill his board, and you're just like, okay, and now the game goes on.
Yeah. Like in those very specific situations, right, where you can avoid having 7 health, but you usually have another minion on the board if you're actually ahead. And that's assuming they don't have minions, on their side of the board. Because if they have one minion on their side of the board, doesn't matter what you play, right? They'll have 6, right? If they have 2 minions on their side of the board and you don't get rid of it, then you need 5. Like, it's a very small percent chance that you can even do anything to prevent them from using it on turn 7, and that you have 2 somewhat comparable choices to do. And then by turn 9, that's not even possible, right? Because you're talking about delaying from turn 7 to turn 9. Once you get to turn 9, it's over. They can do whatever they want with expendable performers. So,
well, yeah, but then you can also do a lot more stuff, right?
Yes, you can do more too,
that's the main
but
difference.
not.
It's like, okay, do I need to just push it back and like, I know they can basically do whatever. Like, for those of you guys who aren't kind of aware, the difference between turn 7 and turn 9 is huge. It's astronomical. Just weird things happen between those turns, and also the card differences are insane. So that's really it. Like, where a 1 turn difference from turn 7 to turn 8 to turn 9, you might think, well, the mana difference is not that big. But Blizzard, throughout the years, what they've done is they've printed a lot of cards such that 7 to 8, it's a huge gap now. 8 to 9, it's a huge gap now for classes, for neutral as well. And this is how we see something like the Rabbit at 10 mana, because they're like, oh yeah, you should be rewarded for getting there and for not being able to play it, instead of just playing a Faceless Behemoth like we see with old gods. Nowadays they would probably never print something like that again, because it's not going towards the recognition of the fact that you made it to turn 10. It's kind of like a slap in the face, right? What do you get for getting to turn 10? It should be something like Scrapyard Colossus, which is very resilient. I mean, you can disagree if it should be that, but more so like Scrapyard Colossus, less so like Faceless Behemoth, which is definitely not something you want.
What do we have Faceless Behemoth rated as? Faceless Behemoth is rated at 47 in Demon Hunter.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I think it's overrated. We should probably knock it down. Because when I think back on it, it's a 10 mana 10/10. Like, that's so bad, you know?
It's so bad, yeah.
Okay. For those listening on YouTube, I'm sorry about my volume. I just adjusted it. It should be fine now. I don't know why my microphone like spiked today. Yeah, and when you're like putting it together on the audio, make sure to like just
whatevs.
Tune it down a little.
Maybe, sure.
Oh, okay. So. Yeah, that's Card Good Bad, Expendable Performers. Let's talk about... The arena meta is kind of the same as it's been. I feel like there's no need to kind of like talk about it. We gave tips for how to deal with Demon Hunter, and we gave tips for how to play as Demon Hunter and what could help you mitigate your issues with Demon Hunter. Really, like, if you watch the successful arena coup we had with the Rogue, what we did is we just didn't get matched up with Demon Hunters. So if you can do that, that's really the best way to win a lot. And on the other hand, like, I had a run the other day it was a run that was going surprisingly well, and I forget if we were at like 6-0 or maybe 8-0, and we hadn't faced a Demon Hunter yet, and then we faced 3 Demon Hunters in a row and we lost 3 times. And I was not surprised, right? Like, that deck in particular was not going to do well against Demon Hunters, but that's just how it is. If you watch our Paladin coup last week, it was very sad because we faced some Demon Hunters and we were Paladin. Our deck was also bad, but even if our deck was not bad, facing Demon Hunters as Paladin is very bad. It's kind of a frustrating meta with Demon Hunters on top, and the recent hotfix did not do anything significant to really help with that, but it did fix a lot of all of the other elements in the meta. So we're just waiting for them to push the button now, and I'm hoping that they push the button next week. So we'll see. It's very clear that it's unbalanced right now, right? Like, no one's looking at a 57% win rate and going like, well, I guess this is okay for a while. Like, they know that the polish and the sheen is wearing off on this new expansion, and that players want an actual decent meta to play with, and they also have constructive problems apparently. So stuff is going to change. I definitely see nerfs in the very near future, and the adjustments as well for Arena.
All right, so I think it's a good point to segue a little bit into Battlegrounds BGs. I wanted to take this time to talk about some general strategies and tips to help you guys out with BGs. Not going to complain about the meta because the meta is in a really good spot. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I think a lot of players who are either on the leaderboard or just really grinding it out, playing in the highest lobbies, they'll tell you that the meta is really fun and quite balanced right now. The areas that Blizzard can really focus on are improving the really feels bad heroes. There are some heroes in which if you pick them, they're just kind of terrible. So sorry, patchwork, and patches.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, if you have patch in your name, you're not doing great. But that's one of the only things. And the meta is in just such a good spot. I think skill expression right now is extremely, extremely high. So that's where we're at. And then, of course, the leaderboard situation where that really turned me off a little bit because about 2-3 weeks ago, after I was really into Battlegrounds and I was climbing, I looked and I think I was like number 70 in North America or something, which was I was getting to like almost the highest I've ever gotten, which is about top 40 in NA. And I was like, what do I have to do?
You were top 5 for a day.
Right. I was top 5 for a hot minute at the start of the reset. There you go. So at that time, and then I looked, and then of course because of the MMR bug, I was like, oh, okay, I will literally never reach like top 5 in NA because those spots are taken up by mostly people who have bugged MMR, whether purposefully or not purposefully. So it's like, okay, well, what really is the point then? There isn't any. And now, since I've stopped playing, stopped playing ladder, I've been playing private lobbies. I've degraded to like 130 in North America, which leaves me only about 10K away from first place. So there you go. Just, sitting pretty. I'm a leaderboard player, like 130, 140 NA, and 10K away from number 1. Woo. So good. So, look, we're going to focus on the good of BGs, and I want to focus on some fundamentals to help you guys who are perhaps struggling a little bit. And this advice can apply either from, trying to get from 4K to 6K or 6K to 8K. It's just good fundamentals. And I would say even a lot of people who are perhaps struggling at like 10 or 11K could really look at these basics again, because you're probably not doing it.
What about those of us at 3K?
You're at 3K already?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm at 3.5K.
In my mind, you were still at like 600. I swear, I thought you were still at like 600K, or not 600 MMR. Sorry. Wow. Good job. Yes, this is definitely applicable to you, but I know you probably won't. You think in such a special way, okay? But let's go through a lot of these basics, because whenever I have coached in Arena and tried to figure out how Arena people think, a lot of them know that, okay, there's a decision-making tree. There's these things I have to figure out. For some reason, that comes a lot hard. Like that becomes a lot harder for people in BGs, and they just freeze or panic, or they look at it and they just don't know how to process. Processing is harder, and I understand, because in Arena, whenever it is your turn, everything stays still. Mm-hmm. It is just that what you are presented with is the puzzle. that puzzle doesn't change.
And you got
You
like
can
2 minutes to like make two decisions.
right. Like there, but in BGs, essentially what happens is it's a constantly shifting puzzle, and you have to decide: do I change the puzzle? And then after changes, what am I doing? Right. So it's one of those things where you just have to make a lot of decisions fairly quickly, and then you have to keep on asking the sort of similar questions, but different questions as the puzzle changes. So people get really panicky about that. People get a little bit confused. And you want to just take it back to the basics and simplify it. And once you do that, you will see your MMR go up.
Okay, Merps, what are the basics? What do you mean by basics in Battlegrounds?
There you go. Okay, so number one, if you are below 10K, definitely. And I would say even like below 11K nowadays because of the inflation. You don't really need to care about what your opponents are doing. Not really. Like scout them a tiny bit. Scout them more than ADWCTA does, but only slightly so. That's the sort of bar that we're setting here. You don't just worry about yourself, right? Remember what I talked about with my arena guide. The last step is getting reads on your opponents and caring what they're doing. The first step is to just get your own shit together. That's it. So with BGs as well, the basics are, number one, you have to have a plan, a general plan. And it comes from at the very beginning. When you're picking your hero, you want to see what tribes are in and what tribes are out, what hero is best, and also what hero is just best for you, right? This is like, for example, in Overwatch, you might not pick the meta hero because you just suck with the meta hero. Same thing for BGs. If you just are much better with another one, pick that one. And then afterwards, immediately look at the tribes and say, okay, well, these are the potential endgame tribes. Some people don't look at it and then they're just like, I don't know, I'm not exactly sure. And even at the very beginning, like if you see that Murlocs are out, you should realize that, okay, well, this end game comp with poisons, with a ton of health, and with like an Amalgadon-esque late game transition, perhaps maybe with some selfless heroes, that's out. And that can influence your decision-making points as well. If something like Murlocs and Dragons are out, whoa, that's two of the most popular endgame comps that are out. So Elementals are in, right? Suddenly Beasts are not that bad, and especially like Goldrun Beasts. At the same time, if Murlocs are out, that's an endgame comp that is out that doesn't deal a lot of damage because a lot of the minions are based on like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 units. And it's really the brand and the Begurgles that hurt you a lot. So these are things in which if you're a little bit being like, whoa, that's a lot of information. No. It's just stuff in which the very first turn you look at it and you just be like, okay, I need to keep that in my head, right? So that goes into part of your plan. Just recognition is part of the plan. And then you need to have an actual kind of more focused plan, as in what you want to do for some heroes and what you want to do for the meta in particular is you want to take damage in the early turns. Because in the early turns, you are able to control the damage a little bit more, and you're able to turn that into higher tiers. You're able to turn that into triples. I am a pretty big fan in this meta of a lot of times holding triples in my hand, not playing it, and then next turn tearing up and then taking advantage of the triple, like playing it so I can discover from a higher tier than I would have been able to. But that's all. You have to have a plan for that. And the questions that you want to ask yourself in each turn as well is how much gold do I have? Do I like these things in the shop? And then the important question when you're thinking about rolling, because a lot of people just they're frozen by like, do I roll? Do I buy? Do I roll? Do I buy? If you roll, what would you like that is better than here? And you also want to factor in how many roles you have. I ask myself that on stream out loud a lot because that helps me. And then I look at the deck tracker, which has all of the minions on the side, and then I just look and I'm like, okay, well, because it's very easy to see that there's a crowd favorite in this tier 3 shop. I can roll once, and man, I really want that Bronze Warden. I really want that Deflectobot. And there's just this crappy crowd favorite here. And oh man, it sucks. And man, the Bronze Warden is so much better. But you just look at the list, and then suddenly you're just like, okay, it's really only those two.
Yeah.
It's only the Deflecto. It's only the Bronze Warden. And yes, I'm going to roll once, but my chances of hitting just those two, and sometimes it's literally only those two, right? If it extends, if you actually have a lot of things on tier 2 and tier 3 that you'd rather have, then you're like, sure, okay, cool, roll. But ask yourself that question, go look at your deck tracker, go look at those things, and then be like, what would I actually buy over this? And what are the things that are worse / equal? If it's equal, then you don't care, then you just grab it anyways, right? Ask yourself those questions, look, and then answer that. And you'll just find that the turns become easier. You'll find that as you ask these questions, you're going to ask yourself a lot more questions, and the plan is going to form into place. It's one of those things where when I coached Arena, I would ask the person at the beginning of their turn, what do you want to do? And they're just like, I could do this, I could do that.
Yeah.
I could do this, I could do
Here's
that.
the 8 different configurations I could spend my mana.
Right. So what they would do is they would, who knows, maybe it was just it was nervousness. Maybe they were trying to impress me. But what they would just do is like, okay, I need to name exactly every single thing I could do here. And that's not efficient. And I see people doing that with BGs a lot as well. They're just like, okay, well, there's this, there's that. I could do this, I could do that. No. Let's bring it back into what do I want to do, like big picture wise, and then you look at this and it's like, for these units, does that help me accomplish my goal somewhat? And on average, and you don't have to be right, but on average, do you think this is good enough for you to spend your goal on to accomplish that goal versus you rolling and getting something better, right? And if you just look at it and you're like, well, I don't want this, but actually there's not much that would improve me right now, so I just take the crowd favorite. And I think I like using the crowd favorite example because that's a perfect example. No one really wants a crowd favorite, but if you look at it, that's most of the times kind of like the best pick for you. So I would actually say if you want to improve, you can even go back and look at my Arena decision-making guide, because a lot of those questions, if you just tweak it to make it Battlegrounds appropriate, you'll become a leaderboard player. You'll get onto the leaderboard because it's all about asking questions over and over and over again. You just have to be faster at it, and you just have to, because after every roll, you kind of have to quickly evaluate once again. But
see, I was gonna say, you like most of these questions you can actually ask on your opponent's turn. So you do have to tweak it every time you roll, but the questions generally don't change because, especially past like, I don't know, the first like 6 turns, like what you're looking for is based on the tier that you're in. Like it's very rare that something that you find in your early rolls is going to change how the rest of your turn looks. And if you do find it, it's usually something totally crazy, like 2 of the same cards pop up in the shop, right? And they're like, so now you have a triple that you weren't even close to getting before. Or like it's a really, really good thing, right? Like, oh, I wasn't expecting to get this, I don't know, game-defining card, but now that I got, I don't know, let's say a Goldrin and a Hydra in the same shop, I'm switching over to Beasts, right? Like, because I had a crappy mech comp before or whatever. So normally all the other stuff, when the battle's going on, what you want to do the next turn, how to improve your board, which is your open spot that you're selling. And each time you roll, you just apply that same thing again, right? And what could actually change your turn. And you're also highly unlikely to get something that'll knock you off your plan.
Yeah. So I would say that for Battlegrounds, it's much tougher to get down this like exact checklist Also, the checklist does change a little bit, and it's a much more dynamic game, right? It's a much more
Hmm.
faster
Well, it's
game
because in
in
a
which
turn you make like, I don't know, like 40 decisions rather than the like three decisions you make in the arena.
you make a lot of decisions. That is true. But the questions that you're asking are all pretty much the same, and if you're able
Hmm.
to answer the general questions, uh, that's fine. A lot of people focus on specific questions too much. They put, and you see this in like the chat of the top streamers. I see this as well in when people kind of like backseat my games. Sometimes they focus a lot on like in arena, it's about that one missed damage, right? People
Hmm.
focus on that so much, and here it's like, oh man, like uh it's actually better if you position this fourth instead of third. It's better if like you actually got this buff instead of that buff. And for that kind of stuff, it's really just a big overall questions. Like, okay, well, if I do this, then I'm taking early damage and I'm taking a 5 drop, right? Like
Hmm.
for a triple. Those are the kind of things in which it just branches you out so far versus just the
Yeah,
small
it's the
things.
meta macro things that matter much more than the micro things. Now, if you have no idea how to do the micro game in Battlegrounds, you're not going to get super far just on macro. But like once you reach like a level where you're just naturally getting like 85 to 95% of the micro decisions right because you've been playing this game for that long, then the remaining 5% is not like a huge deal compared to like there's just more growth to be had in the macro metagame.
Yep. And this is why like people are in awe of, for example, I watch a lot of Dog and I watch a lot of Victor or 12 Wins. They're really good with uh Khadgar, Bran, and the big picture that comes with Khadgar, Bran, but really the small decisions that in one turn they are making, I don't know, like 300 400 decisions, just like rapid fire, and they can make some mistakes here or there, but like all that is literally unnecessary, and people will go back and they'll be like, whoa, it's like, oh, you sold this one before you actually played that one, you did this instead of you did that. The most important decisions are actually just the fact that they started it and they know what their end point is going to be, and everything in the middle is like plus or minus a few stat points, plus or minus a little bit of efficiency here or there. It really doesn't matter. So that's like a perfect example of just getting lost in um like the getting lost in the weeds, and really just focusing on stuff that is not important there.
Hmm. Yep, yep. I mean, I say this all the time too, right? Because I don't do that at all. Like, I am the
No.
least good micro at anything player in any game. Like,
Yes.
I just like when something's so small in terms of how much it matters, I just don't do it. It's not worth my effort. Like, it's not fun to
Mm-hmm.
me, and I
Yeah.
focus on the things with the biggest impact. And I do really well in strategy games, making a ton of these little minor misplays that don't really matter. I've kind of made a career out of it in terms of like any kind of game I play. You'll see the same thing that I do everywhere, and it's because if you made a good strategy game that really involves strategy, then what matters is strategy. It's not the like little tiny whatever things that are like objectively right and objectively wrong, but have like a 0.00001% impact on whether you win the game or not, right? And these games are all pretty good strategy games, so they have that. Like, just trust that the developers have done a okay job at least in making their strategy game, and it's universal that these small things don't matter. Um, so don't fret about it. On the other hand, like when to triple up, when to tavern up, which units to buy, those are huge.
Yep.
Those things are like that's where the game is at. And for battlegrounds, positioning is important, but just the structure of the positioning, not necessarily like third versus fourth. Like think about that last, and if you don't get to it, it's probably okay. I do notice that like even when Merps is coaching me, he emphasizes positioning a lot less than I thought he would. like I probably emphasize positioning about as much as he does. I mean, I'm probably not getting it right at the same percentage, but like I'm looking like for it if I have the time, and around the same percent of times that he's looking for when he has the time. And Chad's looking for a way like Chad's way more on top of it than we are. But like that's what's interesting to me because in Arena, right, when you always have time, you're
Yeah.
like always on top of it in every single positioning move, and I just don't care about the positioning at all.
Oh yeah.
Whereas in
Well,
Battlegrounds, I recognize the importance of the positioning, so I've been moving up, in terms of how much I care about it, while you've been moving down because you have more other better things to think about.
it's one of those things where you really I've recognized the fact that it's like this is good enough.
Yeah.
This is especially for you, and I recognize how valuable time is when we co-op in BGs, and how long it can take you to really just execute
It's
one of
rough.
my
There's a number of
directions.
steps that involves in hearing an instruction and executing it.
I have resigned myself to essentially being like, okay, if I think that they have like the Divine Shield taunt Amalgadon, or if they're mechs and then they have the Anoia module, then let's get a bumper.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes maybe let's get two bumpers. That's about it. And then afterwards, a lot of times it really doesn't matter. And then it's about breakpoints, but you just don't know the breakpoints.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not really a yeah. That's it. So once again, for you especially, it's about let's spend time on stuff that matters a little bit more because we
Yeah.
definitely need that time.
Yeah, and I think like for the people listening out there, you probably need that time too. So if you don't think you need that time, then you just haven't figured out what you need that time for yet, and that should be the first step. I generally know what I need the time for, and I'm just running out of the time to like do it. But yeah, I mean it's battlegrounds fundamentals. A lot of things are important. Too many things are important. You got to let some of it go. And that really small stuff that you're spending brain power on, which I understand in Arena when you have all the time, you should probably do it, and I forget to do it because it's not important enough. In Battlegrounds, you just really shouldn't do it, no matter who you are, because you shouldn't have the time on the mid and late game.
Yes. Okay.
Cool. Question from the goat. What's the question from the goat today? It'll be kind of a short podcast.
Sure. You know what? Let's talk about BG private lobbies. It's the new hot thing hitting BGs. But I've been playing a lot of private lobbies. Crip has been playing a lot of private lobbies, and it's just been a ton of fun. Where I think some of us are just a little bit tired of the ladder and the fact that the MMR system is really messed up, or you just want to try a little bit something different. But I've been pleasantly surprised by private lobbies and setting your own custom rules. Some of the rules that we played with this past week have been 5 minions max. So all the rules only apply to the battle phase because you want an easy way to check. You can't really police people during their buying
Mm-hmm.
phase, and you want it to be elegant. You don't want it to be complicated. The simple, the simpler the better. So one of the rules was 5 minions max. Another one was um, you can only have one minion from each tier. That was one of my favorite ones. So you have to keep track. It's like, okay, this is my tier 1 unit, this is my tier 2 unit, this is my tier 3 unit. And private lobbies just make you think about the game in a different way. It's actually kind of a good exercise for helping you out with the game. Like, don't take everything that you learn and go to normal BGs like that, but it helps you think about tempo. It helps you think
Mm-hmm.
about, okay, well, how do I level? How do I do this? How do I do that? It's just like how different variants of chess, for example, right, can help you. Can just sort of just help your mind with other variants of chess. Same thing with this as well. Like you want to take those fundamentals that you've practiced and you want to exercise that. So because like I said before, it is really easy to get caught up in the minutia of battlegrounds. But when you implement brand new rules, you have to think about it in a big picture way again. You can't just be like, okay, this is exactly how I play Omu, and this is the curve to play Omu. And here are I looked at HS replay, and dragons have like a slightly higher EV than, Murloc. So dragons at this spot, and I've learned and I've memorized that if I pick up like a bronze warden on this turn, it's like better positive EV than Deflecto and everything. And it's like, no, that's just forget about that, right? And with new rules, there's none of that stuff. You just have to rely on your basics, your fundamentals, and you think, what does this mean for the heroes? What does this mean for all my roles? What does this mean from a turn-to-turn basis? It's really refreshing. It's almost like you're playing a new game. So I highly recommend it. Grab some friends if you have any. If you don't, well, I'm sorry. But at least you have this podcast. So there you go. Or you can join me because we do play these private lobbies when I'm streaming. And I'll definitely be playing more of it. So check it out. It's something where if you're tired of the grind, if you just want to play something else, grab some friends, or you can join me on my stream, play some private lobbies. It has really reinvigorated my interest in BGs.
Yeah, especially because BGs is such a isolated game mode from Hearthstone. Like you have less chances of being able to practice its fundamentals. So private lobbies are a good way to do that. What I also like to do before is kind of just play on my EU account that doesn't have the battle pass, and so I'm forced to pick crappy heroes, or I voluntarily pick crappy heroes, and play on very low ELO, but it still forces you to do things differently, and you're just not punished as much for it. I don't know. I have fun beating up on noobs with bad heroes. But yeah, I've been spending most of my time on Hades. If you are one of the few people who are friends with me on Steam, you'll see that I have like almost 80 hours logged in already. Oh, it's such a good game. I don't know when I'm gonna quit. I think it's definitely gonna be like, I'm definitely gonna hit 200 hours. I have no doubt about it. So that's what's been occupying my time instead of proper Hearthstone stuff. And finally, if you are waiting on this tier list to be freaking updated, so are we. We keep running into rabbit holes and more rabbit holes and more rabbit holes, but it is right there at the finish line. It's definitely coming out next week. Fingers crossed. Definitely coming out next week. And hopefully it'll be good and we don't have to do anything about it. The one, like, not too surprising thing, but I guess like maybe a little surprising, is just how high God, I keep forgetting the card's name, is just how high the Dark Moon statue is coming out.
What?
Like it's insanely high.
And, no.
And well, because one of the things we did is we upgraded the way we think about corrupt to overcome some limitations in what the algorithm is doing and when it's like viewing towards playing the card. And one of the effects of that is its proper recognition now of just how good some of these corrupt effects are. And Dark Moon Statue is probably the one that went up the most. I know everybody's like, they're clamoring about what is this horrendous growth, but like horrendous growth is going up. We call that a miss, but the big miss really was Dark Moon Statue.
Nope.
This is a card that I think from now on I'm just gonna take when it shows up, unless it's against like a Proto Drake or like a Burrowing Scorpid or some other like super insanely good card. It's just a 3-mana 4/5 starting on turn 5. That also has initiative if you have anything on the board, and your opponent is forced to remove it, and it has 5 health. It's looking real good. All right. A question from the GOAT brought to you by our Patreons at patreon.com/grinandgoat. We'll give the shout outs next week when we have the updated list. It's still early in the month. And until next time, this is ADWCTA.
This is Merps. See you guys.